Just really probably one bigger thing, I guess. One of the aggravated assaults. This was yesterday, probably about 4:30, 4:45 p.m., and it was inside an apartment building in the 600 block of West 11th Street. We had some people that were in one apartment, and there was a gunshot that came from the apartment above them into their apartment. Ended up being a shotgun blast, I guess, a shotgun discharged, and there were some pellets that made its way from one apartment to the other. There were no injuries. Once officers kind of sorted everything out, sounds like the person that fired the gun had left, and they ended up, there's some surveillance video at that apartment complex, and they saw shortly after it happened that a guy left with some type of bag or something and then put it in a car. So once everything was sorted out, detectives came in and they ended up finding some marijuana, some meth inside the apartment. Their shotgun was found inside the vehicle. That shotgun had been reported stolen. The suspect wasn't there initially, but then ended up coming back later and then was arrested on those charges. There were no injuries. We're not sure what led up to it or why the gunshot happened, but it sounds like it was, I don't think he was doing anything. I think it just was kind of an accidental discharge. He was also on parole, so he was held on a parole violation. We had the drug charges, the possession of controlled substance, marijuana, and meth. They weren't any big quantities, just small quantities. Reckless discharge of a firearm, possession of stolen property, and then possession of a firearm by a former drug offender. Those were the charges that he had.
So after he shot the gun, or the accident discharge, he took that, the gun was still in the car, or?
The gun was in the apartment, and then he took the gun from the apartment and then put it in a car and then left. Didn't leave. That car was still there, and then he left with some other people and then came back sometime later.
Gotcha. You said the drugs were found in the apartment?
Drugs were found in the apartment, yep. There were some other people inside the apartment where the gunshot happened at. I don't know if they were necessarily in the room where it happened, but it turns out they weren't involved. And again, no injuries. That's probably the biggest thing from this.
Did you say kind of like, so you said the shot came into another apartment? What kind of like damages?
Yeah, I think it was just, let me see here if it said. I think it was just some damage to the ceiling. Right, the shot came from the the second floor into the first floor. So in the apartment where the gunshot happened, the damage was to the floor. The apartment below, they had basically a hole in their ceiling. I don't know how big of a hole, but there was some stuff that came down from the ceiling. And yeah, I think that was pretty much all the damage, was just to the ceiling. Do you want his name? Last name is Blaine, Blaine. First is Casey, Casey. Middle is Wellington, Wellington. He is 33 and from Vermilion. Yeah, the charges had the drug charges, so the controlled substance, marijuana, paraphernalia, reckless discharge of a firearm, possession of a firearm by a former drug offender, and then possession of stolen property. And I don't have details on where the shotgun was stolen from, but when the officers ran the serial numbers, then it showed up that it had been stolen. So I don't have the details on that quite yet.
You said you're not sure of what led to.
Yeah, we don't. What led up to the gunshot, we don't know. I don't. It seems just in reading the report, it doesn't sound like it was any type of intentional act. So I don't know if he was handling it or what led up to that. We don't have the details on that.
You said at the time the shot happened, there's more people in that same room?
In the apartment. I don't know if they were necessarily in the same room, but there were some other people that were in the apartment. The upstairs, well, both apartments, the upstairs where the shot originated from and the downstairs where the shot came through, but. All right. The other aggravated assault, that was a domestic strangulation case. The assault that was listed, I don't have any reports on that. The burglary was an apartment that was entered. No arrests on that. The disorderlies ended up being reports. One of them was dumping, trespassing, disturbing the peace. A couple of them involved juveniles, but nothing serious. The family offenses are all protection order violations and reports. The fraud was just a report. The larcenies, a few unlocked cars, a few shopliftings. We did have a couple of catalytic converters that were taken. One of them was was this morning. That was just before 7 a.m. Somebody heard a noise, like a sawing noise, and then they looked out and saw people under a car, and then they took off. So we've got some information to follow up on, but they were gone by the time the officers got there. So that's one of the things that obviously we've talked about. This is it's a very tough crime to solve because there's nothing to tie one particular catalytic converter to one particular car. So this is one of the things that we need people's help. If they see something or hear something, we want them to call police. That's what they did in this instance. So we've got some good information to follow up on. If people hear anything unusual, be a good witness. We don't expect people to get involved with this, trying to stop anybody, but they can use their phone. They can, take notes, take pictures, just call 911 and tell them what you see. If you can get a license plate number of a car or a vehicle description, certainly a description of the people that are causing the damage, all of that can help, and hopefully we can find some of the people that are stealing all these catalytic converters.
Do you have a location of that one?
Yeah, that one was... That was the 4300 block of East 18th Street, which is near 18th Street and Judy Avenue. That was outside of an apartment complex.
And they actually made out the converter?
Yes, they were able to get the catalytic converter on that one. Narcotics, nothing big from those. The sex offenses, one of those was a report. The other was a sex offender that didn't register. Nothing serious from the simple assaults. Nothing suspicious from the unattended death. The vandalisms, we had a house that was shot, or it was actually a trailer house, was shot with a BB gun. No arrests on that one. Somebody threw either a brick or some rocks at a business window downtown. He was found nearby, was arrested. Turns out he was a former employee, was upset with management. Did about $5,000 damage to the glass, but so he was charged with intentional damage to property. And yeah, that was the 300 block of South Phillips Avenue is where that was. And that happened yesterday morning just before 10 a.m.
That was about $5,000 damage.
Yeah, let me just double check on that. I think that's what the report said. Yeah, they estimated the damage about $5,000. There was four large windows that were broken. The weapons violation, that was a car we had one car parked, and then somebody heard a gunshot and then saw another car leaving. So there was a person that fired a gun from one car and hit a parked car, and then they left. I guess the owner didn't have any idea why somebody would have done that, but no arrests on that one either. Anything else? Okay, thank you.